Do you like what we do here? I would assume so if you're listening to this. We have had a good year for growth this year. We've had substantial growth on all the podcast feeds with new subscribers. We have the new YouTube channel with a bunch of new subscribers there too. But we want to carry this over into 2026 so we can continue to provide high quality entertainment, high quality news, high quality reviews, and all that kind of stuff. So what we're asking for going into next year is, if you have the ability, we're not asking for a lot, you can donate. Go to ko-fi.com/MWP News and make a donation. Everything you do goes towards making sure we can do things. That way I can take days off work to go and cover things early, or, things of that nature. Go to events and talk about them early, see advanced screenings. All that stuff goes into that budget. On top of that, if you can't afford that, and I realize right now things are tough and things are rough out there. If you can't afford that, the easiest thing you can do is subscribe and rate. No matter what you use to get this podcast, you can subscribe. Just hit the follow button, hit subscribe, whatever the button is on your thing, and then rate us. Give us 5 stars. That'll help more people find us, and the more people find us, the more we can, the more we'll be able to do, and we'll be able to get more happening. You can also go to mwpnews.com and sign up for our newsletter. There we will have articles and stuff like that about what we cover on this show. And we will also be doing more gaming content on the YouTube channel. If we can get, with more subscribers on there, we can do more. And that's youtube.com/@MWPnews. And again, thank you for a great year for us. Next year will be better. One of the big issues that I had this year that preempted me from doing a lot of what I wanted to has been resolved with the issue with my car, and that issue has been resolved. So going into this next year, we should be a lot more smooth sailing, but we do need your help to get more people listening and get what we're doing here out there. So just subscribe, tell your friends, and if you have the ability to, and you have the money, and you want to, and you think we're doing a good job, and we've earned that, go to ko-fi.com/MWP News and throw us whatever you think we deserve. And thank you, and enjoy this episode. Good morning and welcome to the Backlog Files. I am Adam. It is, what's today? Today I'm recording this on Saturday, but this is going up Tuesday as usual. Tuesday the 17th. Oh, so St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day to anyone who celebrates a holiday that exists to get drunk. And the point here is, let's start out with this. On this show, and like all podcasts, the host is expected to make bombastic statements. That is our lot in life. We are here to make bombastic statements, because if we don't, who's going to want to hear it? Because let's be honest, you don't want to hear everything's going to be great. You listen to something because you're looking for someone to say, I think this is going to end up being a problem. You're looking for someone to validate your opinions, and that's what we're here for. And I said recently, I felt that Pokemon Pokopia was not a great example of a title that should be the anniversary title. I didn't think that this game was one where we should all just get ready and be like, this is like for the year 2026, the 30th anniversary of the Pokemon franchise. This is what they should do. And part of the reason was it didn't feel like, based on the trailer, I didn't watch the full treehouse thing. Based on the trailer, it didn't feel like it was going to be anything besides just, for lack of a better word, shovelware. I was genuinely concerned that it's like, okay, well, this is another spin-off. At least they're trying something new. I've been on the record saying, like, my favorite era of Pokemon is like Gen 3, Gen 4, where they went out and they tried all these new, cool spin-off ideas. Like, you got Ranger, you got Mystery Dungeon, you got all that cool stuff. And I was like, look, I don't think this is going to be something particularly great. I was genuinely concerned that the game that we were going to end up playing was going to be something that was like, at best, it's fine. I did not think that since Pokemon has made the transition to the Switch and onto quote-unquote home consoles away from the handheld consoles, which the Switch is a hybrid of both, don't get me wrong, but it's also the flagship home console now, and has been since 2017. I didn't think that we'd be playing a game that, I didn't think we'd be playing the best game produced in this era, with Pokopia. For those unaware of what Pokopia is, it is, you play as a Ditto. You unlock abilities to modify your world, and you have to fill the requests of various Pokemon to make the world better, with the intent that, the humans are gone, you want to get the humans to come back, and maybe if we rebuild the world properly, the humans will return. And we're going to do some mild spoilers here, so if you're trying to go in unspoiled, maybe go to, come back to this after you've played. But I think that what really works about this game is that, I've seen it likened to Minecraft, I've seen it likened to Dragon Quest Builders, or Dragon Quest Builders. I've seen it likened to, Animal Crossing. It doesn't, I would say the game it feels most like to me, and this is going to be probably, I'm going to say niche title because they haven't really updated the franchise in quite some time, but it was pretty big at the time it came out. It feels like Viva Pinata plus Animal Crossing, in so much as your goal is to get as many Pokemon to return as possible. You complete the Pokédex by building the environments and having Pokemon come and show up. Now, you don't breed the Pokemon, you don't make them fuck or anything like that to get more, which is a key part of Viva Pinata, was, the mating and expanding your thing that way. And God, I just wish I had Viva Pinata on the PC. But that's not what you have to do in this game. You have to, you just have to get the Pokemon to show up, and then more will show up, and you'll get more things to make more show up. And you just have to make the environment right to keep them happy, and that's what the game is. So it feels more like that plus Minecraft because you're gathering materials, you're using the materials to modify the world the way you want. There's a ton of decor options. So yes, there is that Animal Crossing aspect to this. But this game is truly something special. I mean, we have the 1 to 5 rating, and we have the 5 gold star for something that goes above and beyond. This is the 5 gold star title. The game handles well, it's smooth. The load screens are a little much until you think about just how much processing power this game is actually using. Like, at the end of the day, the game is, like, all the areas are constantly running that you unlock. And, the idea that, like, yeah, these are all constantly running, so switching between them. Like, if you, like, in Minecraft, if you go too far away from a block that you have hit and then reduced to the block on the ground that you can pick up, if you go away from it too far, that block will disappear, and it will not render. If you do that in this game, they'll stay there forever. And this isn't something that I went out and tested with the intent to test, but like when you get to the third area by the volcano, and for some people it'll be a second area, if you're smart it'll be a second area, when you go out to that, and you, there's a lot of just soot from a volcanic eruption, in that area you get you can just leave the soot behind, which is what I ended up doing because there's just so much of it when I was trying to clear out of space. But you leave that behind, and I left and came back several times, and it was still there. And it just sits there waiting for you to pick it up. You can set up security cameras so you can see what's going on in the areas even when you're not there. It is truly an impressive game with its ability to make the world feel full. And I think too, it's like the story aspects of it are really kind of interesting for what this means for the world. I mean, spoilers for what the setting is. It's set in the future of the Pokemon world, and every area you go to is an area of Kanto. Like you start out by Fuchsia City. You move to You move up to the second two areas are Pewter and Pewter City and Vermilion City with the SSN. And then the third area is the fourth area is Celadon and Saffron. And what's really interesting about it is like the way they kind of execute this is it's like the humans have gone because there was an environmental disaster and everyone just wants the humans to come back. And it's one of those things that like the storytelling of this is so interesting because it's like there's no one expositing to you. Just as you explore the world and as you find these areas, you'll find books and you'll find tablets and stuff like that that'll just explain to you like, hey, the storytelling. It feels like you're playing The Last of Us to an extent, where it's like you're not learning things through exposition. It's just you're finding things that tell the story as you go. I love that part of this game. It really does make the world feel richer in that regard. What else have we got that I wanted to address with this? The gameplay's fun. I love the Pokemon interactions. One of my favorite things about it is that like there are so many weird little lines of dialogue and things like that just it feels like animals that are trying to emulate humans, which really works for what this game is. It's been memed to death, like, let's get this place humid. It's such a weird line, but it's like, if it's something where it's like, yeah, they're trying to sound human and approximate what humans sound like, it works. Or like, at one point I encountered Magikarp, and he just like, this is some choice moisture, bro. And I was like, that is so weird. It is just so endearingly funny. And look, there are some things that are a little bit weird, like the Torkoal mission where you have to get Torkoal through the thing to unlock baking. And that's the thing too. If you haven't started the game yet, or you haven't gotten to the point where you've cleared the first area, and you have to choose between the two, when you find the Pokemon Center, if you go to the right from that first Pokemon Center in what was the artist formerly known as Fuchsia City, if you go to the right, that gate to the right will take you to Vermilion. I would advise you don't go that way. I would advise you go to the left through the cave where you find Onyx. There's another gate. I believe you can choose at that point which way you want to go. Go to the one that'll take you to Pewter, because that's how you unlock the upgrades. The upgrades to Cut and Leafage and Water Gun and all of that. That will make it a lot easier for you to progress the story. And just the ability to water larger areas at one time is incredibly useful. And to make grass patches in larger areas at one time is incredibly useful. And that's something that, like, I wish I knew when I started the game, was that I think I saw you can choose, but I picked Vermilion because it's like, oh, I remember this is here, and I assume the one going through the cave, you need to be a higher level to do. I don't think that's entirely accurate. And then the one straight up, I think you do need to be higher level to get to the second one. And the other thing is, too, it's like you unlock the ability to get Rotom through that way, because you get Rotom and you get, Chef Dente, who teaches you how to cook. And those two things are more important, I would say, than Moslax, which you get through Vermilion. But it is cool. I like the layout of Vermilion, and specifically the what's it called? Like there are small story things, like that guy in Gold, Silver, Red, and Blue who's building the thing. It's like he's building a lighthouse, and you see the completed lighthouse here, and that was a cool little touch. And I think the thing that's really interesting about this is that it's like, look, I'm not a proponent of there being DLC packs announced at launch. But the fact of the matter is, when we're doing Kanto, you are doing some, there are some things that you can bring back that haven't been touched in this game. Like, iconic locations. Like, I would say you could do Pallet Town, even though there is an area, Pallet, Pallett. Like, there is that, which is like that, that island that you can just do whatever the fuck you want on. Like, they could do Pallet Town and Viridian City, which are not in the game at base, and Cinnabar Island is not in the game at base. They're not likely to do it, but the Sevi Islands are not in the game at base. And I would anticipate them, them not doing that, because it is kind of like a niche thing from Fire Red and Leaf Green, though those did just get re-released. Cerulean not being in the city and the Cerulean Cape not being in the city is an interesting thing. And that was something else that's like, because the EV evolutions are in the game, like, that's the thing that kind of makes me think that they're not going to do it, because like the EV evolutions are in the game at base, and you get that through Pallet Town, and it's like that's something that would be perfect to get through the other area. Like, if you go through what's it called? What's what I'm looking for here? If you go through Cerulean, that's where you would get to the EV evolutions, but because that's Bill's favorite Pokemon. But like, that's not something that's in the game base. But they're there already, and it's like Lavender Town's not in the game, which feels weird that Lavender Town's not in the game. I'm not entirely sure why that was the decision they went with, but Lavender Town is not in the game at base. But it would, that's something else that, like, the Pokemon Tower not being there feels weird for a game there. And it's like, look, they could always do a sequel. They could do DLC packs to add these areas in. They could do DLC to add in Johto, although with the fact that the legendary dogs and Ho-Oh and Lugia being in the base game, I don't think that's necessarily likely. I don't think that's something that necessarily, is going to be added in, because I don't know what there really would be to do, considering all the legends from that game are kind of spoken for. But it'd be cool. And it's like, look, that's the thing about this game, is that it's like, if I'm playing a game and I'm enjoying it so much, and I'm enjoying it to this degree, that I'm like, oh my god, give me more. Like, please let there be DLC for this. You've done something right. Because, like, I'm not a huge proponent of DLC. Like, I've kind of, like, done the mental gymnastics to be okay with the story DLC for the Pokemon games, like, Legend ZA having it, and, like, Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield, where it's like, okay, the alternative here is that they release a third version, like, I don't know, Pokemon Gun or Pokemon, like, I don't know, Indigo or something like that. And it's like the alternative is like, okay, well, you gotta, buy this and play through the entire story again just to get to the DLC area. And it's like, maybe that's something, that you end up doing, but like, to me, I feel like it's just kind of an odd choice. That's something that we would end up having, needing to do, to clear out, in this case. And I think that, like, to have this and be like, I need more of this right now is very different from, I need, for, like, the other games where it's like, well, it's better than the alternative. And I think that's a big, that's a solid, endorsement of this game. What else have I got that I want to talk about with this? I think that basically covers it. This is a game that I'm very, like, I enjoy playing a lot more. Like, I could go back and play Fire Red over and over and over again. I could just keep, going into that. But given the option, I always go back to this. Given the option, I always go, this is what I want to do. And look, I don't know what more there is to really say about this. If you haven't played Pokopia yet and you have a Switch 2, this is a game that you should play. Arguably, this probably should have been the launch title. And I think with this game's existence, it does kind of push Animal Crossing in the Switch 2 library more toward the back of my mind, where it's like, this game is a sleeper hit. Pokemon spin-offs don't tend to do this well and don't tend to be this well received, looking at like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon DX and all that kind of stuff. Like, we don't tend to get this kind of, response. So, maybe this will be a sign that we let these other companies do their thing and actually, hey, this was well received. How can we do more things like this to get people to buy our games? And I think that we may actually have something that could be good here. Now that we've talked about the game itself, 5 stars, go check it out. I do have a theory that I was thinking about with this. So, it's not really founded in anything besides just like maybe this is just a headcanon or anything like that, where it's like, what if we've been looking at Mystery Dungeon wrong? For those who don't know what the Mystery Dungeon plot is, you are transformed into a Pokemon through mysterious circumstances, and you are in a world with no humans, entirely occupied only by Pokemon. And that's just where you are now. What if, taking into consideration some of the new lore expansions that we've had over the last few years, both in the main line and now in the spin-off, what if we say that Pokopia is the mid-step? Pokopia is the mid-step between the mainline Pokemon games and Mystery Dungeon. So, one of the things in Mystery Dungeon, and I have to replay these games to really fully grasp this theory that I kind of cultivated while I was playing Pokopia, is like, they're kind of afraid of the humans coming back. Like they're aware of what humans are, and there are these giant climate catastrophes that are constantly happening and are a danger to the world and all of that in Mystery Dungeon. And that's kind of the big danger, is that it's like, hey, shit keeps happening everywhere. These calamities keep befalling the world, and we think it's because of the humans. What if it is, hey, the humans left because they fucked up the planet, and now this human has turned into a Pokemon and they're here. They're aware of what humans are and they're not thrilled about them. The legends are very concerned about this. What if it is like, hey, they try to do this thing to make the humans come back, and this is just something that happens and it just doesn't work. The humans don't return, and now it's just the Pokemon are living out their best lives on this planet, but the world's still fucked up in ways that they can't fix. Because, like, the climate disasters are something that they can't correct themselves. Like, they can fix the environment, they can, make the water, do things, they can, adjust the landscape, they can do all of these things. But fundamentally, at the end of the day, they have no power to, fix the broader climate issues that are plaguing this planet. So what if, at the end of all of this, you have this issue where it's like, what do we do here? And they just kind of, it's just, that's the step after. Humans left, Pokemon are left, and they're just like, well, what the fuck do we do now? And now they're just like, well, now we're in a panic because this shit keeps happening. The humans clearly aren't coming to help, and we aren't equipped to do this ourselves. And that's kind of, that's the beginning of that theory. And I think, too, it's like one other thing that could be interesting, thinking about this game as an anniversary game, and this will be our last thought before we sign off for the day on this. Looking at, Pokopia as a 30th anniversary game, they have all the music from the past games. There's a nice selection of Pokemon. There's 300 Pokemon out of the 1,000 from across all 9 current generations. What if Pokopia develops as a tandem franchise in its own right? Now, I don't think Koei Tecmo is going to, do this, long term, because that's the developer who did this. It wasn't Game Freak. It was a Koei Tecmo title. I don't know that they're going to sit here and be like, hey, yeah, let's just do Pokemon for the rest of our existence. But, like, there is a world in which you get these kind of weird niche stories across the Pokemon world, one per region. Where it's like, okay, Generation 1 of Pokopia, we're in Kanto. Generation 2, we go to, what's it called? We go to, Johto. Generation 3, we go to Hoenn. There's a world in which that works. And I think that that's something that could be interesting. Like, you just do Pokopia Johto. And I know I've said this before. We said this multiple times with Let's Go. I think that the issue with Let's Go is that it's like, the gameplay was pretty niche, and like, I know for me, the thing that keeps me from fully loving Let's Go is the fact that I gotta use motion controls if I play it docked, and if I'm playing it handheld, I can use normal throwing mechanics. which does make the game a little bit more annoying, especially considering how much of the game is dependent on motion controls. It's just kind of a little bit odd, the way they handle that. But what are you going to do? It'd be interesting if they did that. I'm not holding my breath, but it'd be interesting if they did that. But on that note, we will wrap up for today. Next week, we haven't decided on the game yet. I'm not fully committed one way or the other to any game on the schedule. I have to look and see what else we can do, unless some major news happens between now and then, in which case that will occupy the entire episode. We may just talk about the possible death of Xbox, because that is something that could have, been set in motion, and we could be, headed towards that reasonably imminently as an Xbox. Yeah, they sent out the Project Helix. They're sending out the dev kits this year, but will that console ever actually come out? We'll talk about it maybe next week if it's not another game that I want to talk about. But until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.